Hello and welcome to Scilence, a podcast where women get really honest about surviving and thriving in what often feels like a man's world. My guests are wonder women from the fields of science, technology, engineering and mathematics, or STEM, where inclusivity and diversity can be a real problem. I know this only too well as a female Southeast Asian mechanical engineer. I was kind of a minority within a minority back then. I'm Dr. Shani Somara, an engineer turned broadcaster. Throughout my career, I've worked on and reported on some cutting-edge technology and innovation. And through my TV work, I've met some incredibly inspiring women from a diverse range of STEM fields. Talking to these exceptional ladies has often left me feeling empowered, hopeful, and excited about life. I believe Scilence will enrich you too. Every week, a woman in STEM shares her unique experiences with absolutely no pressure in having to promote her accomplishments or guard her impressive reputation. Because I've come to realize that everyone is just way more open and relaxed when they're anonymous. So I deliberately disguise my guest voices so that we're just connecting as human beings rather than human doings. It's my hope that you really relate to what we chat about today. If so, please do subscribe to Scilence and maybe even rate and review the show. I'd love to have your feedback. This week, my guest is in the field of physics. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you because I had the absolute privilege of meeting you briefly and finding out about your really impressive work. And I just am itching to know how you got into something so complex. So, first of all, why physics?
Well, frankly speaking, it was more of a chance, I would say, that I chose physics to begin with.
How come?
Because, like, when I was in my high school, so back then we had to choose like science as like as your major. You could choose that as science, like science, commerce, or let's say humanities, for example. And I did science, and I had more interest at that time in, let's say, biology and chemistry rather than physics. So it's interesting that finally I am working in physics now, and it's been like at least 10 years or more than that I am
Wow.
in the field of physics. You know, if you include all the graduation and everything.
I mean, a lot of girls find biology especially and chemistry more appropriate to them. And it sounds like you did in the beginning too. What made you switch over to the physics side?
Yeah, so the thing was that what I wanted to do initially when I chose science in my high school was more be a doctor, you know, so be in the field of medicine.
Mm.
So that was one of the things I wanted initially, or even my family wanted that. But then, like, I had a visit to the hospital and I realized I don't like it, like in general environment. You know,
Yeah.
it was not my kind of like work that I would like to do for like all my life.
Yeah.
So then I decided, and I never had too much interest in engineering, you know. So like that was not one of the things I wanted to do.
Mm.
So then my thing was I thought that okay, one of the options I had thought back then was actually biotechnology, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
Still come from back from India, and there it was not actually a thing. That time it wasn't really a field.
Right.
I don't know how much it is now, but back then it was not at all. Biotechnology was not a common field you would choose
Mm.
usually. So there was not much scope available to choose from the colleges and all. And then finally, I decided, like, okay, do I want to do chemistry? But I didn't want to go for the traditional, you know, like zoology or botany, those kind of fields in biology. So then it was between chemistry and physics. And then when my results came for the high school, they were good. And like the national level, you know, the exams we have in India. And then I decided I wanted to go into one of the good universities there back, like in Delhi. And then I was thinking of choosing either between physics or chemistry. And then I realized really I had more interest in physics than I actually thought I had.
Hmm.
Like thinking about it when I had to choose, and then I chose physics back then. So that was my first decision that yeah, I wanted to work. I wanted to be in the field of physics.
Right.
The frankly, I hadn't thought it through too much. To be fair, that I wouldn't say that I had thought that I will become a scientist or anything. No,
Mm.
but that was like probably that's how my nature is in general. That I don't usually plan a lot ahead, into the future. So then I decided to take physics because there was another thing that you had more scope. Back like when I discussed with a few of my the people in my family, they said that yeah, there was this scope, more scope in the field of physics if you go for general science, which is not common in India. Usually, you would go for a professional degree course, like either medicine or engineering. That's more common
Mm.
than taking up just basic sciences, which
Mm.
is not that common in India usually. So, and then after the discussion, I thought that, to myself, whether I wanted to take chemistry or physics out of the two. And then after thinking it through, I realized that, yeah, I did actually have interest in physics. Because I think somewhere, which you said is true, that usually women or, as young girls, when you are in school and all, you always there is this notion in the I don't know, in the society or whatever, like there's this mindset that, yeah, like the girls are good in biology and chemistry, but not good in physics and maths.
Mm. Yeah.
So this thing was there that's what was there as well. And probably that thing even maybe like, at the back of my mind, I also used to think that way. But then when my results came, then I realized that, it was not how I thought, because I was not bad at them at all. Like, in fact, in my high school, actually, I started to like mathematics quite a lot. Like, I had a very good teacher in mathematics, and I really started to like mathematics. And once you do that, I think that helps you a lot in physics as well,
Mm.
because is a kind of used it's an integral part of physics, that you need to know, like have at least some idea of mathematics so that you can work in physics. And then I decided that yeah, okay, I'll go for physics for my graduation, so undergrads basically, as you would say.
Mm.
So yeah, and then I wasn't sure that I would continue in the field or not, but that was like the first step. And then I would say that after I joined and I found my interest like in the subject much more, and then like yeah, it has always been after that physics. And I think like it was one of the best decisions I took, that I wanted to work in physics, because after joining physics I realized that we had to do some chemistry. Like in our first year we had, and second year we had some chemistry practicals and chemistry papers, and I realized that no, it was much different from what we did in our high school, and I wouldn't have enjoyed doing that, in the long run. So yeah, so I think like it started as like a by chance thing, not really a very something thought of too much, but yeah, it ended up like being what I was probably meant to do, I would say.
Yeah. Your story just sounds so incredible because um, I'm just trying to figure out whether you were always following what felt right or whether you just got lucky.
So to be fair, I would say it's a mix of both. Like it is true that usually I don't plan, as I told you, that I don't plan my future. And by now, I would say I have been lucky enough that I haven't made two wrong choices.
Right. Because your interest in physics has taken you around the world.
Yes, exactly.
I
That's the
know
thing.
from your background,
Yeah, yeah,
you've,
exactly. That's the thing. Like, I mean, now when I look back, because as I told you, like they were not really very calculated decisions. Like because I see that there are many people who really calculate the decisions they take based on how their
Yeah.
will be and everything. On my part, I didn't do that. But even without doing that, I would say that the decisions I have taken based on like how the situations happened and, the opportunities that arrived. And there were many times really where I was scared whether I really wanted to do this or not, especially like, as you said, like going, like leaving your own comfort zone and coming out of your own country and going to a
Mm.
different country. And there were a lot of apprehensions because it went kind of against my like maybe my inherent nature as it used to be back then, something like that.
Right.
But at the end, I would say that it has taught me a lot, like both let's say professionally, but as a like personally also, it has turned me into a different kind of a person.
Wow. Okay. In what sense?
So the thing is that, since a kid, like I am actually an only child, and I was kind of always very like well protected and all this kind of thing, and and I was very emotional. Always like I didn't want to leave home and go somewhere. That kind of a person. You would say a homesick person, and an introvert as well back then.
Yeah.
And so my mother, I would say, one of the person who's really responsible for what I am today is my mother, to be fair, because she always used to tell me that I should learn to be independent. Always said that you have the potential,
Mm.
and you kind of underestimate yourself. That you get scared that yeah, probably you won't be able to do, but I know you can do it. Like so this thing that back then, like if anyone who knew me back then, even my mother used to say that like that she never thought that the kid I was when I was in school and all, and the one I am now, that this person that I used to be afraid of staying alone and all that, and now I live alone in a different country away from my family, and I manage things on my own. So like it has changed completely, that the person anyone would have thought, like people many times used to say to my parents that probably they should have sent me to a boarding school or a hostel, and then maybe I would grow up to be a different person and won't be too much emotional and homesick and this kind of thing. But my mother always said that she never felt that that was the right decision, that I should be sent away just because, okay, I was emotional.
Mm.
So, but she always kind of told me this thing that she feels that, yeah, I have the potential and I can do anything. Like, probably I'm just scared thinking that I can't stay away from my family or, these kind of things. But I just underestimate myself. And because of her, I would say that, she always had the faith in me.
Yeah.
And that gave the courage that when I decided that I would go and do, let's say, my master's abroad and then do a PhD abroad, I was initially like at why, there were two thoughts going on in my mind. One was that, yeah, it's a great opportunity for my career, and like very few people get that. And I was getting it. So I should take it. But then there was another thing at the back of my mind, which was like, but will I be able to survive there on my own?
Mm.
Because yeah, after my high school I left my home and I was staying like in a different city. So yeah, I could stay away from my family, but it was still like within the same country.
Yeah.
So it was not that far away, not like like maybe 10,000 miles away, where they are very far away from you, you are far away from them. Even if you want to feel like at some point just feel like, yeah, I don't feel good, I want to go back home, that's not easy, it's not going to happen.
Mm.
So when I was about to take this decision, like at some point at the back of my mind, I was thinking that probably, I mean, I don't know whether I will be able to do it or not, whether not taking the right decision or not. Like, should I leave India and, like the opportunities I have in India and decide to join something abroad? And if I join, will I be able to stay there maybe more than a month? Can I survive that long or not?
Mm.
also that probably because of the encouragement I got from my mother, I managed, and that's why I said like now I can manage things. And what she wanted me to be, which was that I should learn to become independent, I have finally managed to do that.
Right.
So I think like all the decisions I took finally led to changing me from the kind of person I was. Maybe the insecurities I had, and the I mean, I won't say really flaws, but let's say still like mainly insecurities, like yeah, being too emotional or
Mm.
being insecure about your family and things. I was able to overcome that and you know have a life which is different from that. Like now, I know I can survive, I can manage things.
Gosh, and it's all thanks to
So,
physics.
feel good about it.
You,
Yeah, it's all thanks to physics. Like I chose, like I would say, yeah, I mean, I chose physics, and finally, physics brought me here. So, indeed, it is all thanks to
yeah.
physics.
You say that you were never a planner, but I mean, in order to really pursue physics, did you have to work hard and be focused, or did it just come very naturally to you?
So the thing is that I would say, yeah, you do have to work hard and stay focused, but that thing was there in me from the beginning, kind of, like when I was in high school. Also, I used to be like in general like focused, and I don't know how much hard working, but yeah, at least even if I would, if I was doing, let's say, even if I studied for like 2 hours, I would at least study those 2 hours properly and stay focused, not like getting distracted into other things.
Mm,
So, that thing was there. So I didn't have to put in any, for that part, I didn't have to put in any extra effort, I would say, to choose physics, because that was something which I did, which I came to me kind of naturally, I would say. I
it
mean,
felt
I'm not
right.
sure if that is the way I was brought up or anything, but yeah, like the thing is that it came naturally. That the if I usually it's for me, if I do something, then I put in my 100% to focus as well as work, my 100% in that work.
Mm. So were you, rather than planning, were you just following your gut instinct of what felt right for you?
Yeah, that's true. So rather than planning, that's what I did. I followed my gut instinct, and then, in choosing the opportunities, whether to choose one over the other. Like when I decided I would do a master's, let's say in physics, rather than going for a master's in business administration, which many of my friends did who were in my physics. That was kind of based on my gut instinct, I would say, because the most common trend was actually to go towards the MBA rather than going for a master's like MSc or something.
Mm.
That was not a common thing. Most of my classmates chose a MBA rather than the master's in
Yeah.
physics.
And were you in a minority because the numbers of women in physics is really low?
Yeah, I was. That's true. Like, I mean, in my class, I would say, let's say if we had like 50 students, then there were just 10 girls. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, this is the case when we were in our bachelors, basically. So in our undergrads, that's how it used to be. Then like all these, like when we go in our masters, then we were like, well, I went to my masters, it was the same thing. I mean, the class size also reduced, but the woman percentage also reduced. Like I remember in masters specialization course, I was the only woman there.
Oh my gosh. And how did it feel?
Yeah.
Like, did you feel it? Or maybe you didn't even notice it?
Well, Well, I would say initially it felt a bit weird initially, but I wouldn't say like I don't know if people really tried to make me feel that or not, or maybe it was the cultural difference also you see when you shift from one country to the other,
Right.
this thing. But yeah, initially it was a bit difficult for me in the sense that you were just have all guys a lot and like you feel a bit different. Like, okay, if you want to talk about certain things, then you are not that comfortable. But yeah, in all these years now, it has become fine for me, and like more or less, I would say that it's not that difficult. Like I have accepted the fact that yeah, I have chosen a field where there are not many women,
Mm.
and I have to work with men, and that's okay. Like I should know how to deal with the situation.
Yeah. I mean, you said something which I really related to, which was, well, I was moving countries anyway. So it's this sense of, well, I'm different because of my ethnicity. So being different because I'm female is just part of just feeling like an alien. Like, you know, did you ever feel like,
Yeah.
well, I'm just different and I'm going to accept that?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I agree with you because I think what I would say is that, the realization that being a woman in this kind of field came much later. Because initially, the feeling that you come from a different country and then you have to adapt to a different culture was much bigger
Right.
than
Yeah.
even you are a woman in a different field, like in a field where there are more men. That thing, I think, started to like feeling start to dawn on you, like when finally you have settled in the environment and now you have got used to this, to the new country, the new culture, and everything. And then maybe at some point, the realization comes that, oh, yeah, right, I'm just a woman, and I'm a woman in a field where there are mostly men. And
Mm.
when you probably start looking around, and what I feel like, I don't know, I mean, what I feel in the past few years, this whole thing that, the realization that all the women have, or let's say I don't know how much the society, but in general, this fact that, the acknowledging the fact that the women do have to face a problem in a field which is more dominated by male has started to come up more, is being highlighted,
Yeah.
because before that it was never highlighted. But now when after this thought came, and after you realize this point was brought out to, and then you realize that, yeah, probably there were things happened in the past as well, which you never realized because you were probably busy trying to think that, yeah, maybe it's because I am in a different country.
Yeah. You blame it on other things.
Yeah, you think that probably it's because of the cultural difference, and
Yeah.
maybe it's because I am coming from a different society, and there's a big difference between the society here you have, and like in the developed countries, and the society you have in a developing country.
Mm.
So there's a huge difference. So that's already much big.
What kind of things do you now realize were actually not cultural differences? They were just gender differences.
So yeah, I mean, I feel somewhere. I mean, I don't know. There might be cases where I would say people deliberately behave with you in a certain way because you are a woman. It's kind of pointed out to you that you are something like. Uh, I mean, I don't know. Some people might say it jokingly, and I don't know how much they joke and how much they really mean it. But many times people would say, "Oh, you got this thing because you're a woman."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you are a token. They have to now show. So after the point that was highlighted that, yeah, the representation of women in many of the fields is
Mm.
less. Then you hear these comments from your male counterparts or colleagues or anyone, that they would say, or even your friends, like male friends in different fields also, they would say, oh, you would get that easily because they need women.
I hate that.
They have to.
Yeah.
So, which is like, which you've probably never realized that much, but now when you think back, you realize like there's always this thing that they won't acknowledge the fact that you got it because you're intelligent.
Yeah. But it sounds like you always knew that. So that's all that counts. It sounds like you knew that you got it because you deserved it.
For me, I have never let it hamper the thing that somewhere feel down that, yeah, okay, probably, the fact that people say to me that, oh, you are a woman, that's why you got it, kind of trying to, in a way, downgrade the fact that you got some opportunity because you are
Mm,
intelligent. So, I mean, I never let it affect me, but I know there are many people who get affected. Like, I know many other women who get
yeah.
affected. And they're thinking that, yeah, someone said this to me. And then, like, my reaction to them is like, yeah, they can say anything they want, but you are, at the end, you know who you are.
I don't think it's that easy to know who you are. And I'm so happy for you that you were able to not take those put down comments on board. I mean, where does that strength of character that you have come from?
Well, in my case, I mean, I agree with you completely that it's not easy, especially if you're constantly surrounded by people who try to make you feel that, you are not good enough. That's the
Mm.
thing. You
Yeah,
are getting things just because you are of a certain gender, but you are not at par with the other people. So that's absolutely true. And for me, the thing that the strength of character is, I would say, my inspiration has been my mother.
yeah.
Like, I mean, she was a housewife. I mean, she is no more. Like, she passed away last year. But she was a housewife only. Like before getting married, she used to be a teacher, school teacher. But then she got married and she took up being a housewife. But she's one of the most strongest women I have ever seen. Like way ahead of her at times. Like me coming from a country where people still differentiate between a girl child and a boy child, these kind of things. I was never made to feel that, and my mother always encouraged me. So she always told me this one thing, that you are very good at what you do, and it doesn't matter what people think about you or what they say to you, and you should never bother about that. If you know you are good at something, or you can do something, from inside, that's what it matters. So you shouldn't bother about what people think about you or what people say to you. And people will always try to bring you down because
Mm.
that's their job. In
Right.
fact, she say this to me, that if people are saying this to you, that means you are better than them. Probably
Yeah,
that's of you, and they are saying this thing to you.
yeah.
But they can't take it. It's very hard for people to take someone who is, better than them. It's very hard. So you should be actually happy if you meet more people who are saying things like this to you. I know it's difficult to take it in a positive way, but whenever they say this, she used to always say this to me, because, as I said, like, it's not like I didn't face. I faced, and there were times in the beginning where I used to feel that maybe I'm not as good as they are. Maybe I'm not good enough, and what if, like, and if I would just go, because she used to be more like my best friend. Like, I would tell her everything, and I would tell her that, like, do you think that maybe I didn't choose the right field, or maybe I'm not that good enough, maybe I don't have the capability. But that's the thing, in the beginning when I had that doubt, and she told me this thing that, like, no, you are good at it, that's why you got it. You didn't get it just because you're a woman or anything like that. You got it because you're good at it. And you should always remember that there will be people trying to say these things and bring your morale down, and these kind of things should, like, they will do. But you should always remember this, that you are good at it, and that's why you got it.
Gosh, she sounds so awesome.
I think that stayed with me because, like, I got that thing from her, I would say, in a
Mm.
way, that seeing her, that she has always been this strong woman and always inspiring. It always made me feel like, yeah, I mean, I am good at what I am doing, and I'll fight for my things. I won't give
Mm.
up.
What an incredible woman she must have been. I mean, she just sounds so awesome. I must say that in all the women that I've interviewed for this podcast, they always talk about mentors and role models. And it seems to be that any successful woman in STEM has some kind of role model or mentor in their corner. Um, have you had other role models and mentors apart from your mum? Or is it really just enough to have one woman behind you or one man?
Well, frankly, I would say that, I mean, for me, my role model, I mean, is my mother. That's true, because I think it's enough if you have one support,
Yeah.
for me at least. That's how it is. Like, if you have even one woman, even if not in your field, it's sufficient, I
And
would
even not
say.
necessarily a woman, just someone that believes in you, right?
Yeah, it could be anyone. I mean, it could be anyone. I would say it doesn't even need to be a woman, and it could be men as well. I mean, it doesn't need to be a gender
Mm,
thing. So that's true, because I mean the thing is, like for me, the experience of working with more female, let's say other people in my field hasn't been much, because as I said, that most of the time it becomes like, probably you are the only female one working there, and then it becomes like, yeah, okay, you have more male people. I mean, there are many, I would say, role models who are male, and there are people whom I look up to, with whom I have worked, and I look up to because of their work and overall, the professionalism, as well as their behavior in general with other people, these kind of things. So, and yeah, in these years, I think there have been like one or two women I have met, and they have also inspired me, that like the amount of work they have been doing, and the kind of work they do as well, made me feel like, yeah, I mean, these are the kind of people probably one day I can become, or at least I can try to become, I
mm.
think.
What are your ambitions for the future?
So my ambitions for the future is like, to work in the field where I am right now working, and be successful in that one and doing what I am doing. That's on the professional front. But then, like, there's another thing which I have always wanted to do. Is something that, to give back something to the society as well.
Mm,
So I would like to, in future probably do something where I can, help other people, like, where who want to be in, like, who want to study and do something in life in general, and probably also try to help other women or girls, and I mean, especially, let's say, in my country, where this gender difference is existing, and you see there are many cases where the girls don't get even the chance to prove that they can do something in their life, just because, maybe because of their financial conditions, or in general maybe their family doesn't want, so maybe do something for them when I get a chance. And otherwise, like, I would like to be in the field where I am, and finally, do something more worthwhile in being in this field, and work in the research area that I work on.
mm. I mean, I must say, we are trying to keep you anonymous, but you really are extremely advanced in the area that you've chosen to work in, and it's just so impressive. The accomplishments you have gathered to date. So, we really are, hearing from someone that has gone very far within your physics field. Um, like, as a result of being in physics for all this time, you must have witnessed why girls drop out and, fall away from physics. Can you summarize why they do?
Yeah, so what I feel, what I have seen, so the thing is, not only, what have seen before is that already, like in your high school, there are, as I said, most of the girls would choose some other option rather than physics, as I told you before, that in undergrads, you already see the number decreasing. And
But
then,
why is that? I mean, let's break that down. Like, why are
yeah, so what
girls?
I think is, as I said, that there's this notion in the society that since a kid you are kind of, you get to hear this thing that boys are good at maths and physics or these kind of thing in STEM in general, let's say. And girls are good at more like humanity things, humanity subjects, or maybe in biology or chemistry, these kind of things. So that I think already kind of sets a mindset, as a kid
Mm.
growing up. Like if you're continuously, being said that, yeah, you're not going to become a good engineer or you're not going to become a
Yeah.
good physicist, maybe you start believing that, right? You would
And
feel that, yeah, if everyone says, probably that's not my field.
yeah. So my partner has two teenage kids and a boy and a girl. And what I have observed from them is that they're both capable in STEM subjects, but the girl tends to be a lot more emotional. And as a result of being more emotional, she doesn't see things as logically and as clearly as the boy does. But it doesn't mean that they're not capable in both in STEM subjects. It's just one does a lot more over analyzing and the other one sees things very black and white. And so there's this perception that he's actually better at STEM subjects because he doesn't get emotional. And it's fascinating that you said that when you were young, you were very emotional because it doesn't seem to have stopped you from pursuing physics.
Yeah, that's the thing. So what I feel personally is that the two doesn't need to be related, because I mean, I was emotional. I was very emotional back then. But then I think the thing that is there is that when I was studying or something, then the questions you ask is still remains. It's not like, even if I have to take a decision in general, I would still think logically, if related to any decision which is not, let's say, much, even if it's related to maybe my family or something, then also I would think logically and say. So it's not like being emotional means you would stop thinking logically. That's not true according to me. But the thing is, I mean, I don't know, like, this is according to me, maybe more like, I don't know how much it is inherent, whether it's like really true that women are, good at certain things and not good at certain things. That I'm not sure. But what I feel is that maybe, if at a very young age you are not kind of this thing is not told to you that, being a woman, you will be good at this and maybe you will be bad at that. Probably that can help if you let a child decide for themselves whether they will be able to do something where, I mean, if they like physics, if a girl likes physics, it's okay, right? There's nothing wrong, and she can be a very good physicist. But nobody, I mean, I never saw while growing up anybody, especially, saying this that, yeah, a woman will become a physicist or a scientist. What you hear more is like, yeah, she can become, like, maximum they would say in science will be like a doctor. Otherwise, they just go for a teacher or something like that.
Mm,
So this is what kind of being a kid, you get this, and then there are like probably that starts getting in your mind as well. And once you start thinking that you're not good at something, I think that starts affecting you, your like the effort you put in, and how you think about that subject as well. So what I used to do if I didn't like
mm,
something, I mean, the first tendency would be you will try to avoid it. But then I used to do was that, yeah, okay, I would try to do it more so that I start to be better at it, and then my fear of that thing goes away. Like, or whatever subject, it's a topic in any
right.
subject, that's what would happen.
And that probably comes from your mum saying you can do anything you want to do.
Yeah, that's the thing, because it's from that only. That's why I said, like, I feel somewhere, like it affects like what if you see that there is someone who believes in you and says that, yeah, you can do everything, and there is no specifically this gender bias thing. Like, it's a as a kid you would see that the girls usually would play with things like dolls and kitchen sets and all, and guys always boys always play with cars and these kind of things, right? But I mean, it's not like a girl can't play with cars. She can, right? There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But then no one thinks about it. And then usually you would see that, I mean, what I used to observe, people would say, even now it happens, people would say to a guy, oh, yeah, so you will become an engineer, a pilot, and this and that. And to a girl, it would be like, okay, so what will you do? You will become a teacher, or okay, you will become a cook, or something like that, because they are playing with those things. So this kind of starts somewhere, affecting the mindset of a child, and then they start getting afraid of that thing, because it's not that difficult according to me, because I have met many women who are in physics, or in general, like, even if they are not in physics, and it's not that they can't think logically, they do think logically, but so which means if they wanted to pursue the field of physics, they could have done well as well, but it's like probably they never tried because they thought it's not possible.
Mm. So believing that you can and not trying to fall in line with the stereotypes is really the way forward.
Yeah, that's the way forward.
Mm.
Like what I feel is that you have to, what the people have in general a tendency is that they want to follow which is something mainstream, which
Yeah.
everyone is doing, they would like to do that.
Mm.
So if everyone doing biology, every girl is doing biology, they would go for that, but they wouldn't go for physics because they would get scared. They would think no one could do it. How can I do it? It's something like that.
Mm.
Or all my friends are doing this, and how can I do this? Probably it's not a good idea. So it starts from that mindset, because if it's the thing, like, I mean, there are many people, when I was like doing my PhD, there, I saw that we had the physics department and we had the bioengineering department. So it was not pure biology, but actually biology plus
Mm.
engineering.
Something a bit unconventional.
And there were so many women in that. So if you do that, yeah, that's what. So there were so many women in the bioengineering one, and there weren't that many in the physics. There were hardly any. So the reason was like, I mean, if they could do bioengineering, why couldn't they do physics? They could, right? If they wanted to. But they didn't try, only from the beginning, only probably thinking, yeah, that's not a very common thing everywhere. It's not a good idea because I won't find much women in that field. Maybe it will be more difficult for me. So there is this thing that people start to get scared of going into a zone where they are not comfortable with, where they feel it's something unknown will come, or they will have to deal more with with criticisms, or maybe more gender bias will be there because there are more men. But then I think if they don't start doing that, if they don't start to fight against their own fears and do things which is against maybe what others will do, or rest of the people are doing, it would never change, right? The situation will always be the same, even if probably maybe even after 50 years we'll be talking the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, can we be honest about women's futures in STEM subjects? I mean, are STEM careers set up to nurture women in every aspect of a woman's life? I mean, how do you see your prospects in terms of having relationships and maybe a family and just having a personal life? Like, is it compatible?
Yeah, I think it's very much compatible from that point of view. I mean, I don't think, because it's the career in STEM is the same as a career anywhere in any other field.
Is it really?
You have your
Yeah, is it really?
yeah, at least according to me, that's what I would think. Like, I mean, it's not like it's something very demanding that you can't give time to your family or relationships or anything like that. I mean, for example, let's say, yeah, I would say that maybe research is different from a normal corporate job, which is true. Agreed that research is something, but then research in the normal fields, like if you are doing a research in biology and you are doing a research in physics, there's no difference. I mean, no difference in terms of the work. I'm saying, yeah, you're working on different things, but your work life, I would say, is the same. So, I mean, I don't see a difference.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're actually busting a myth here because one of the reasons why women don't go into STEM is because they think, oh, you know, when I actually want to have children and, you know, I don't know, just want to settle down, um, I'm going to be in a industry where there's so many men that actually I'll be pushed out because I want to have a more balanced life. And so I'm not even going to start going into a STEM career because it just won't be a good future for me later on down the line.
Yeah. So, see what
So you're busting a myth there.
No, yeah, that's the thing. So what I see, at least I could say what I see, the situation in the developed countries for sure. I can't say about the other places, but where I have worked, I see this that in, let's say, for example, in Europe. I, I mean, I have worked with people, who are men, and they would take a day off or they would go home early because they have to look after their
Mm,
children. So, which is okay, right? So they should, and that's fine. So it's absolutely fine if a woman does that as well. It's nothing wrong.
mm. Maybe things have
I
changed.
don't think it's
Maybe things
really that big a difference, according to me. I mean, I'm not sure. I can't say about everywhere what happens, but my experience, what I saw during my last few years in Europe, I used to see this only, and that was something I really felt good about. That I saw that the men did the same thing. That you would see someone would say that, yeah, I can't be there for some, maybe some office party or something going on, because today I need to be home early because today is my turn to look after the kids, and he has a wife, and maybe his wife has something else to do, so she's not there, and it's okay.
mm.
No one made a fuss of it, no one had an issue with it. So if a woman does the same thing, it's absolutely
I
fine.
really do feel like times have changed because when I was in engineering, which is quite a while ago now, it just wasn't a woman's place to be in something like engineering. And, you know, as a result, if you tried to do anything remotely feminine, it was really looked down upon. Whereas I think today, maybe 15, 20 years later, I do see that men actually want to take a more active role in families and relationships and all the personal side of things. And the gap is shrinking.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. I agree with you that probably it used to be like that, but now, I mean, what I see that, yeah, that gap is now shrinking, like they do try to participate in the activities of their family and probably be, equally responsible. So the point usually we bring about is the thing that we would like equality,
Mm,
right? That's the
yeah.
thing that we want equality. We are not saying we want women to be more than men, but the point is that right now the situation is that there is less representation of women. That's why probably there are, I have seen many of the companies in the industry in corporate are trying to bring these
Mm,
initiatives where they try to hire more women so that the gender gap is
yeah.
reduced. That has to be done not because, yeah, you are saying, yeah, you are favoring women, but that has to be done because the situation is not correct. Once it becomes equal, then it wouldn't be an issue after that. So, and I do see that, yeah, I mean that's something actually. I mean, I can't say about all the countries, but in Europe, I did see this kind of thing in all the institutes I have
Mm,
worked in. That I have seen that the seniors who have kids and family, they actually do care about their kids and family, like equally, only probably as much as their wives
mm,
would do.
yeah.
Just something very, that's a very positive thing I take from the society, or the society from, from Europe, and I feel that should apply to other countries as well, where right now that's not the situation. where the women are still expected, even if they do a job, they are expected that, yeah, you have to take care of your family as well and do the job and everything, and you have to be perfect in both of them.
Yeah. I mean, it has been said that maybe to encourage women into STEM, we have to change male attitudes because it's not for lack of wanting to be in STEM that's the problem for women. It's actually the way men treat us in STEM that's the problem. What's your view on that?
So I think there are, like, both the things are true in its own way. So one is that it is true that probably it's, we have different kind of people, and it depends what kind of people you meet. There are probably people like in my career as well. I have met people who would say things to you more like, yeah, because you are a woman, that's why maybe you're not that good at this, or because that's why you can't do this, that properly. If a guy was in your place, he could do it better. There's those kind of things.
Mm,
So it's not that I haven't been said. So that thing does
yeah,
exist. Which is,
but it's how you deal with it as an individual.
as an individual, I would say initially it affected me. I used to feel a bit, kind of down because of that. But then I decided that, like, I won't take it like that, because I took it more like a challenge to myself. That if someone says to me that you can't do this because you are a woman, I'll prove to that person that no, I can do it. And,
Yeah.
like, I'll prove to that person that you are wrong. Like, you saying to me that you can't do this because you are a woman, or you are a woman from this origin, that's why you are not good enough, or something like that. I wouldn't
Mm,
like that. So I took it more as a challenge. It was difficult, but that's one thing I think, which is like, you do meet people like that. I'm not saying it's not. Like, I had to deal with them. It was tough for me. And but then I would say that it's not just like all of them are there. Like, I had many other friends who were male, and they would say that, no, this guy, what he said was wrong, and this is not the way they should behave. And so they would be supportive. So
mm,
it's a mixture of, and probably it depends on generations as well. Like, there are people who are from some generations who have this feeling that, yeah, maybe women are not for STEM, that kind of thing.
mm,
And they would say things to you which are like this, and try to make you feel bad. And maybe there are people I know who would leave the field as well just because of that. Because probably if you're continuously being told this thing that you can't do anything good, you would never be able to do any good research, you won't be this and that, then probably at some point it might start affecting you, and you decide, maybe I'm really not good at it.
mm,
But I feel that in nowadays generation, like, most of the people you work with, I mean, I work with, who are more like, let's say, my age group or my generation, they are much more actually supportive, and
right.
don't try to look down upon you because you are a woman. I never faced that. So that was,
Oh, you're so lucky.
yeah, I have been lucky. I would say that I have been, like, in most of the places, probably I would be like, maybe one of the women, or maybe we were just two or three women, and let's say there are like 15 or 20 other men. But they were still always like, they never tried to at least do this. So whether they subconsciously or consciously, but yeah, they would never try to make you feel like, yeah, because you're a woman, you can't do that.
Mm. And it's probably because you're in a field where you all share the same passion for what
Yeah,
you're doing.
exactly. I think so. Yeah, probably that's because of that. Because I mean, I have always felt like, I met people, my colleagues in my generation, who have always been, more appreciative of my work, rather than,
Mm,
being mean or trying to kind of degrade the thing I have done. They have always been much more
mm,
appreciative. And vice versa, I also appreciate their work. It's never been like, yeah, like, just because they are men, I'll say, oh, their work is useless or something. I also don't do that.
mm.
So it's more like, you appreciate good science. That's it, or
Yes,
good work.
yeah. So
Forget the gender bias or anything. Forget what gender, what culture, what race, doesn't matter. It's like if someone does a good work, then it's okay. Just appreciate it.
I love that. So finally, what would be your advice for any girls that are considering STEM as a career? What would be the key qualities to have to succeed in STEM?
Well, so according to me, what I would say is that in order to succeed in STEM, probably you would face some difficulties. As I said, you might meet people who might try to tell you that, you're not good at it. So one thing is that you have to believe in yourself. You always have to believe in yourself that if you chose STEM, you chose it because you are good at it. And you know that. So it doesn't matter what anyone else says to you. You should always keep your focus. Everyone has a good or a bad time. That doesn't depend on a gender. I guess it's just happens to any human.
Yeah.
So it might be you are not getting results right now, but that doesn't mean you are stupid. That nowhere means. And you might also meet people who might say you got some opportunity just because you're a woman, but that's also not true. You were chosen because you were good at it. That's it. So that's something. In order to survive in the field, you will have to keep that in mind, and you have to have the faith in yourself. Like otherwise, it's very easy probably to give up, because you might end up working with someone who continuously tells you that you're not good at it, and maybe you start believing it and leave the field completely.
Yeah.
That's a thing. I think that's one of the most important advice I would give to any woman who decides to come in STEM, that until it becomes like completely that, yeah, all the men who work in this field are, actually stop about thinking about, yeah, this fact that you are a woman and STEM is not meant for women. That thing, this thing will always exist in some form or the other. So it's not an easy path. I mean, I completely agree. It's not an easy path. You might be lucky and you might end up getting all good people. But you should be mentally prepared that you would have to hear things which you won't like. But you shouldn't let it, take you down. You should just fight against it and prove to them that they are wrong. Like one day they only have to come and say to you that, yeah, fine, I was wrong. You are very good.
Well, you've been an absolute inspiration and so fascinating as a guest. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your experiences.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
That's it from my STEM guest this week. Gosh, what an amazingly strong and self-assured and confident woman in STEM. I feel like listening to her makes me realize the importance of really believing in yourself, because if you can, it could take you to places you never dreamed you were capable of going. Thank you so much for listening this week. Don't forget to rate and review the show, and catch you next week on Scilence.